Okay, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome to the Green certification training. So this is a training that we offer to anyone that is a new employee to our currently certified organizations, and then organizations that are interested in joining the program. So I will go ahead and get started right now, if I can get my slides to move here. There we go. All right, so a quick agenda of what we're going to be doing. First is to just go over the expectations of the workshop, then we'll go into sustainability, and I'll also give a background on the Green Certification Program, just so everybody kind of understands what the program is, what the requirements are, and how it got started as well. Then we'll talk a little bit about community awareness. I just have a couple slides on that. We do have some speakers that are going to be coming in during the next two workshops. So I won't dive too deep, but I do want to give you an overview before we go forward. And then we'll talk about your environmental policy statement, and I'll give you a little bit of homework on the environmental policy statement. So, all right, we're going to jump right in. So first, and actually before I get to this slide, I do want to talk a little bit about workshop expectations. So these workshops, prior to 2020 and the pandemic, these were always held in person, and we did it over 2 different days. So the first day was about a 4-hour session, and we met on the first Tuesday of the month, and we'd go through everything that was happening in the community. We would talk about waste and how to reduce it, and we'd have a couple speakers. Then we'd come back about a month later and have another workshop and talk about what we saw over the month. So really, to make this virtual, I spread it out so that we meet each week. I really wanted to be able to have segments so that after each one, you had a chance to think about what we talked about before we continued moving forward. So there may be, I know there's homework on this one, and there may be a little bit of homework after each one, but ultimately at the end of the workshops, you'll have an environmental plan completed, and that's really your roadmap to sustainability in your organization. So you'll actually have something that comes out of the workshops when you're complete. So let's go ahead and dive right into first, what is sustainability? So sustainability, there's a lot of different definitions that I've seen for sustainability. It is kind of a buzzword that you'll hear. It can relate to pretty much anything. But for the Green Certification Program, we use this definition below, and really it is to generate a profit while doing it, because this program is focused towards organizations, whether they're nonprofit or profit-oriented. But really we wanted to look at things that businesses are doing that really show a return for them. So utilities, we look at changes that you can make that actually you'll see on your utility bill. All right, so some of the elements of sustainability as far as the program is concerned. So the elements are the efficient use of resources. So when you're thinking about resources, we're thinking about the land, we're thinking about the air. We're also thinking about resources within the community, things that your businesses use, things that your employees use. So Bi-County Landfill would be a great example of a resource that we have. Waste reduction, obviously that is a huge element of sustainability, because we don't have infinite resources for removing our waste, such as land to put the waste on. Maintaining the air and water quality, supply chain evaluation. This is one that I'm not sure if we have any larger organizations, but a lot of our businesses out in the industrial park, supply chain evaluation is really important, because sustainability for your organization really doesn't stop at your property line. It's the supplies that are coming in, so the supplies that you buy, the supplies that your suppliers buy, and then also once it leaves your facility. So it depends on how you're packaging your item, and then what the person that then gets your item is doing with that. So that all is encompassed in sustainability when you're looking at your practice. And then finally, an element of sustainability is resiliency. Resiliency is something that we have seen in 2020, that we really need to be resilient and kind of roll with the punches as they come. It's been a challenging year for everybody. And so being resilient and having a plan in place for What happens if you have an extended power outage at your facility? What happens if you do have to work remote for an extended period of time? What would happen if transportation or your logistics system was somehow interrupted? So really, when you're thinking about resiliency, you want to look at worst case scenario for everything and have at least a beginning of a plan in place. That way you're more resilient for when there's a natural disaster, when there's a pandemic, when there's something unplanned that happens, mass utility shutdown, things like that. And on the right-hand side here, this is a really cool example. And I've kind of tried to throw in a couple of real-life examples throughout, but this is a really cool example from Stone, Rudolph, and Henry. They are a local CPA firm, and they've been green certified for probably about 6 years now. When they first got green certified, they slowly changed over all their indoor lights to LED. And then pretty soon after, I want to say maybe within about 6 months, they had saved enough money to also do their outdoor lights within their parking lot. And so you can see once they completed everything, they saved about 16% each month on their utility bills. So that was a real savings that they saw come back right after making their changes. So obviously there's some benefits to sustainability. The first one is the benefit to the environment. Absolutely. The more sustainable we can be, the less impact each one of us and each organization has on the environment. But there's some other benefits as well. There's a cost saving. So every time we reduce things, whether it's the waste that you generate in your organization, that's less waste that you're putting out in your dumpster, which means that's less often that it has to be picked up. So that's money back in your pocket. So there's definitely a cost savings, but there's also things like employee retention. This is something that we're seeing more and more as we move forward and the workforce gets younger and younger. This is really something that they're looking for. They want to know what your company's doing, what your footprint is, and what your long-range goals are. And that kind of relates over to the information in the stars. This is current information. 84% of global customers seek positive sustainability in companies. So you'll hear stories about companies that maybe aren't being sustainable or maybe have had an impact on the environment. That's something that really sticks with a customer when they're going out to purchase something or when they're choosing a company to use services. 71% of Fortune 100 companies have a sustainability goal. I think that's actually even probably increased. And a lot of them now, you're seeing the sustainability goals becoming more and more tailored to the industry. So we saw Kroger about a year ago come out with their sustainability goal that they're going to completely eliminate plastic bags, single-use plastic bags within all their stores across all their brands by 2025. Well, that really put some pressure on their competition, the Walmarts, the Publix, pretty much any standalone box store that uses plastic, single-use plastic. So that's something that I think more and more you're going to see these tailored goals with end dates where we hadn't really seen these dates before. I think that's the way you're going to see it start going is these dates, because people really want to be the first one to do it. The last star on the bottom, and I know I'm reading slides, I apologize, but I know these are kind of hard to see. So I just want to read the text. 79% of potential employees look for a company with a positive environmental impact. So think about, this is the workforce that you're looking to hire. They want to know what you're doing and how are you having that positive impact. So we'll talk a little bit later about your environmental plan and your environmental policy statement. This is something that you could have as an internal document that you could share with potential employees. So kind of a thing you need to keep in mind there. So a quick information on the history of the Green Certification Program. So, and I'll actually start with kind of my background on this. So I actually started with the program about 3 years ago. So I started in 2017. The program itself started in 2011. So Michelle Newell, who is the Public Information Officer for Montgomery County, was the previous Green Certification Program Manager. And then I started in 2017. My background is actually in communications, but I always had a passion for sustainability. So kind of brought those two together, which was fantastic. And actually, it really helps with this program because a lot of it is communication and working with the businesses side by side to help them make changes. So it's really been a fantastic opportunity. But so the program started in 2011, and this actually came about. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with, but back in 2011, Hemlock Semiconductors was out in the industrial park up by exit 4, and now it's where Google sits. So they had come in and they had their manufacturing. I believe they were actually manufacturing solar panels. But one of their employees had an opportunity to go abroad. They were in Europe and they saw a program similar to the Green Certification Program being used there. So they came back and worked with Leadership Clarksville, and that's how the idea for the Green Certification Program got started. For the first 2 years, it was actually fully funded by Hemlock Semiconductors. So that they kind of launched the entire program. They got it started. And our first organizations came in about 2012 was when we saw our first organizations. And really, in the very beginning of the program, it was focused highly on industrial organizations. But in 2013, Hemlock Semiconductors, unfortunately, had to close their Clarksville location. And so the program didn't really have a home after that. Luckily, the city, the county, and By County Solid Waste came together, and they were able to fund the program to keep it moving. So in 2013, we expanded it to offer more smaller businesses the opportunity, as well as government organizations, to become certified. And then about 5 years later, we implemented the level system, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. But the level system really allows an organization, once they become certified, to continue making advances in the program. And currently we have 130 certified organizations. We actually did a green ribbon cutting yesterday. So the Clarksville-Montgomery County Regional Planning Commission became green certified yesterday afternoon. So we held their ribbon cutting, which was great. So the program goals, before I get into what the program is and isn't, I just want to tell you what the goals of the program were from the beginning and how we've kind of expanded it. So in the very beginning, we really wanted to have it be a way to increase recycling among the industrial organizations. That was something that they hadn't had in the past. And then as we've continued to evolve the program, we wanted it to become more of a sustainability network for the community, so that we can introduce people within organizations to each other so that they can then have a discussion. I think having that network in place is really what moves the community forward. So that's a big focus of the program. We also want to be an outlet for sharing resources. So if you ever have a material that you're not sure what to do with, whether it's a small quantity or a large quantity, feel free to reach out to me. We can see if there's someone that might be able to use that material locally, but we also have a statewide network as well, which is the Tennessee Material Marketplace. So we have access to that. So if you ever have anything, or if you're looking for something, please get in touch with me. I'll be happy to get you onto that website, or even look locally for what you have or what you might need. And then finally, we want to be a trusted source for best practices. So I am always available if anybody ever has questions of, hey, I'm looking at light bulbs. What LED brands would you suggest? We're looking at doing an upgrade. What kind of things could we put into a new building? Even down to, hey, we want to reduce our water flow within the organization. What do you suggest for low flow? All of these, there's no question that I haven't seen, I promise. And if I don't know the answer, I'm happy to do the research and get back to you. So please let me know. And also I can bounce it off. If you're interested in something another company's done, like you hear about it and you're like, wow, that's really cool. I can put you in contact with them too, so we can do some peer learning as well. So I'm not going to talk about the things on the left. I'll let you read through what the program does. I really want to take a minute to talk about what the program doesn't do. So there is no cost to become green certified. Like I said, the program is completely funded. So there is no cost to any of our organizations to be certified. The only thing, you don't have to make any cost-based changes to be certified. Of course, if you wanted to purchase LED lights, there would be the cost there, obviously, but you can become certified by making changes that don't cost anything. You can do it through an energy campaign with your employees, employee education. So there's many ways. Obviously, if you do invest you will see a return on that investment, like with LEDs. So I can also help you if you ever have questions on what the return on investment would be. We don't report any information to any outside entities. So anything you send to me that stays just within the green certification program. I don't share information with anyone. So I don't share information with TDEC, who's a regulatory agency. I don't share information with the city and county. I'm going to say this, usually it's the industrial areas that have concerns about regulatory information or proprietary information. So sharing videos, things like that, that they might not want a competitor to see. Don't worry, we don't share anything that comes into the program. We also don't do any regulatory audits. So that kind of goes hand in hand. Anything that I see if I'm on site, that is just information for the program. I don't contact TDEC. We do partner on things, but I don't do any audits for them. And then last, we don't provide any grants or tax incentives. Unfortunately, we don't have the funding to be able to do that. But if you're interested in grants and tax incentives, please let me know. I can help you look for them. It just depends on kind of what you're looking for, and we can search for that. All right, so I want to go through how you become certified. So you're actually doing the first step right now by attending the workshops. So once you complete the workshops, you'll actually leave with your environmental plan, or at least a really good start on it. You'll have that pretty much built, which is step 2. So I will provide the template. I'll also provide samples. And like I said, we'll work on sections throughout the workshop. So really step 2 will be almost complete by the time you finish step 1. The third step is the step that takes the longest. So after you leave the workshops and you have your environmental plan, we're going to work on one of the sustainability goals and kind of track the progress on that. Because one of the requirements is you have to demonstrate commitment to the program. And I'll get into that more in just a second. And then finally, we'll celebrate the success with a green ribbon cutting. So I want to take a second here and talk about the environmental plan I just mentioned. So the environmental plan is a roadmap to your sustainability goals. Now, this can be an internal document for your organization, or it could be external. It's totally up to you how you want it to be. I would recommend, if you are planning on keeping it internal, do at least share it with your employees, because it is a good thing for them to see what your goals are and what you're working towards. It just helps it bring it all together for everybody that's involved. The first thing we're going to work on is this environmental policy statement, and I'll talk a little bit more towards the end, but that's really your green mission statement. And then also towards the end of this document, it's going to have goals and some targets that you want to reach. Goal tracking for green certification. So like I mentioned, we require a demonstration of commitment. So it's taking one sustainable change and tracking it over a period of time. So I use the example of changing to LEDs. That is something you could do, but it can really be anything. It can be going to low flow toilets. It can be starting an energy reduction campaign by turning off lights. It could be redoing your landscaping to be more water wise. There's a lot of options of what you'd like to go through, and you don't have to pick just one. You can do multiple different things. You can track multiple goals at the same time. It's totally up to you, and we'll work one-on-one after the workshops on how to track. And I will say, if you've already done something, if you've already been, say, changing out to LEDs, or you just completed a white roof project, installed a new water filter, things like that, we will give you credit. So don't worry if you've just completed something, just let me know what you've completed, and that'll count towards your goal tracking. So this is an example of how you would track a goal. So all the goals we just do it by email. So you just email me once a month and I'll actually prompt you. It's usually probably around somewhere between the 1st and the 10th. I'll send you an email and say, hey, what did you do last month for your goal? And I just keep track of that. So this is just a tracking example. This example assumes that you had done nothing prior to the workshop, so there was no previous sustainability efforts that you got credit for. So we did a full 6 months of the tracking. You can see the first 2 months are actually credit given for going to the workshops and starting your whatever it is, your campaign. In this example, it's an employee education campaign, and it goes month by month. This is kind of a slow, long, drawn out goal example. If you want to do it faster and you get to receiving an energy bill that has a decrease, or you get to something that shows progress towards your goal, we don't have to wait the 6 months. We can definitely go ahead and finish your certification quicker. 6 months is kind of the one we use as an example. I'll say probably organizations right now, with a combination of using past work and a new goal, they're probably about 4 months, maybe 3 months to get their certification complete. So once you have finished your goal tracking, we will celebrate. And so this picture is of a ribbon cutting. This was actually at Nashville State in 2018. You can see we cut a green ribbon. The Green Certification Board attends along with city and county mayors. And it doesn't take very long, but it's a great little ceremony to have. The other thing I'll mention is you can see on the bottom here the different stickers that the program has, and this is our level system. So no matter what, every organization is automatically certified at the bronze level, and then it's completely optional if you want to move up from there. So we do have, just this year, we now have 4 organizations that have reached the platinum level. And like I said, this started in 2018, and I'll say when we first looked at it, we thought it would be 5 to 10 years before we had anyone reach platinum level. We tried to make it pretty difficult to reach, but we have had some fantastic organizations that have gotten to that level. So definitely that's something that you can work to achieve. Also, I'll say each year we update the spreadsheet and we update the amount of points that you can get. So each year, even if you think you've maxed out, check the spreadsheet because it may be able to get you more points for something. And I will actually, with this, when I send out the link to this video, I'll send out the level spreadsheet. It's a great resource to look through as you're thinking about goal planning because it kind of lays out all different sustainability tasks. So you can look through and see what you might be interested in getting points for. So, and this is the example of the points spreadsheet. It is completely in Excel. If you don't have Excel, that's totally fine. I can send it to you in a PDF too. But it auto calculates. So you're only actually allowed to enter points into the points earned. And at the bottom, it'll actually tell you what you're certified at. But it gives you example in the description. So these are all the things that you can do. So these are all possibilities for things that you could set as your sustainability goal. The other thing, once you are certified, you have the opportunity to submit for the annual awards. So each year we have an annual green certification banquet. And during the banquet, prior to 2020, we held it at the Wilma Rudolph Event Center. We'd have everybody get together. We'd have a speaker for the evening, have a buffet. We do awards. This year we actually did a virtual banquet, which this picture on the right is we did some pre-recording for the virtual banquet, and this was one of the awards that we gave out. So you can see we have our face masks on for 2020. But during those award banquets, we go through, we do our annual awards, we recognize any organization that has joined the program, and we have a plaque that we give them. Any organization that's recertified, and I'll talk a little bit about recertification in a minute. We'll recognize the organizations that have achieved a new level. So if you were bronze and you moved up to silver, you'll actually get a silver plaque. If you make it to platinum, we actually have a big trophy that we give you for reaching platinum level. And then we have the Outstanding Efforts Awards. So the picture on the right, that is actually the Outstanding Efforts in Resource Conservation Award. And that it was given to Customs House Museum. So that's Custom House Museum's staff that I'm standing with. And they received that award because they redid their lighting to LED. And so they had seen a huge savings on their utility bill from that. So that was the award that they won this year. See, I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So the Ron Smithfield Persistence Award is usually the award that we give out at the very end of the annual banquet, and that's given to an individual in the community that has shown great dedication to the environment, the community, and the Green Certification Program. So this year's winner was Dave Berggren from Red Knight Distribution. He has been fantastic with the program and just helping the community in general. I don't know if anybody knows, but Red Knight Distribution provides the only styrofoam recycling in all of Montgomery and Stewart counties. So if you ever have styrofoam that you need recycled, let me know. I will give you Red Knight's address. You can recycle it there. Another really cool thing that we do is each year we do the annual Upcycle Challenge. So this, on the right-hand side, this picture is the trophy that you receive if you win the Upcycle Challenge. And this trophy was made by Trane. It is completely recycled parts from their assembly line. And this was actually, 2020 was our year that we created the trophy. So this now is going to have a data plate put on it. And each year, the winner of the Upcycle Challenge will be added to this trophy. If you're familiar with hockey at all, it's kind of like the Stanley Cup. And this will be passed around to all of our winners. So next year's theme for 2021, we have not announced yet. I anticipate we'll announce it probably in the next month. And it'll be whatever the theme is, but what you create has to be made completely of recycled material. And then we judge them at the annual banquet and award the trophy. So that's a really fun challenge if you're interested. And I'll have all the details coming up later this month. All right, so after you're certified, some of the things that you have access to, you have an opportunity to be a mentor or receive mentoring. So if you're interested in working with another organization and you really want to know how they were able to do X, whether it's reworking their HVAC system so that they can reduce the amount of air circulation in one portion of their factory, or if you're interested in how a small business went to electronic filing system, we can put you with a mentor that has already gone through that. They can kind of walk you through it. I'm more than happy to help, but sometimes it's good to talk to somebody that's in an industry similar to what you're doing. So we do offer that. Just let me know kind of what you're looking for. Right now, our organizations that are using the mentoring has been schools because it's been so chaotic with kids going back to school and some doing online. We have schools right now that are sharing information back and forth on how to continue to be sustainable in that atmosphere. Other things, we do have a green certification board. So this is a group of individuals. There's about 13 of us. We meet bi-monthly, and together we come up with the direction for the Green Certification Program. We set yearly goals. We talk about the banquet. That's really the group that helps plan the banquet. We go over the annual awards. So we always have that board. We don't always have a position open on the board, but if you're ever interested in joining the Green Certification Board, just let me know and I'll keep that application. And as soon as we have a seat open, we'll go through and evaluate all the applicants and see who would be a good fit. There's some other opportunities, but I want to come back and hit this recertification. So once you're certified, once you're green certified, 2 years later, so if you were certified in 2020, come 2022, I will reach out to you in the springtime and say, hey, it's your recertification year. Here's the things you need to do. So, and I list them there. You then have until, it depends on the year, but sometime between July 1st and August 1st to complete your recertification requirements. Once you do, then you'll be honored at the annual banquet. You'll also have the opportunity to level up if you'd like to. And then you will also be evaluated for the best overall and overall large and overall small best organization of the year. So that all goes into your recertification. The plaque that you receive when you are certified, you'll also get a little data stamp that goes on it that says you're recertified for the next 2 years. So other help, and I talked a little bit about it, but just other help that you can get from the Grain Certification Program. If you have questions that are residential or that you have as a resident, please send me those too. It doesn't have to just be business questions. I'm happy to answer anything for employees as well on questions they might have. If you're interested in electric vehicle questions, feel free to send me that as well. I'm actually working on the Drive Electric Tennessee local policy subcommittee. So if you have questions about standards on electric vehicles, charging stations, anything like that, please let me know. Composting, we are working to try to bring that to Clarksville. So if you're interested, reach out. We would love to get more people involved in composting. Also, I do in-person trainings or virtual. So if there is a topic in sustainability that you're interested in, let me know and I will build a training that's specific to your organization. Energy audits, that's actually what this picture is of. CDE and CEMC both offer completely free energy audits of organizations. And this is some of the information that they provide. The picture on the right-hand side is actually the thermal imaging camera to see if you have any air leaking in or out. Waste audits. I'm happy to complete. I will come to your organization and dig through your trash and tell you kind of an idea of what could be recycled, what you could cut back on, and things that are definitely trash, but maybe we could work towards getting to zero waste. Or if you'd rather, because it's 2020 and this is what we are now, I can also send you the information. We can do a virtual trash audit. So completely up to you on that. Sustainable event marketing. If any of our organizations ever do anything that has a sustainability tie, I will help you market that event. So we've had, Clarksville Parks and Rec is actually our best example. They do the Riverfest each year, and they've tied in sustainability and recycling. We were actually supposed to have electric vehicles for test drives this year at Riverfest. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but I help advertise that because that has a sustainability component and they're green certified. So if you ever have anything like that, I'm happy to help you with the marketing. And then finally, award and grant writing. If you're going after something and it has a sustainability tie, let me know. I'm happy to help in any way I can, provide information, press releases that we've done in the past, or even if you need writing help, I'm happy to help out with that. All right, so before we get into community awareness, I just want to take a second. This is a really cool video that Montgomery County put together. So I want to show this real quick before we get into the awareness. So give me a second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then come back with the video. Great. Apologize, it takes a second to switch between. There we go.
There are countless reasons to love living in Montgomery County, Tennessee. Our available and talented workforce has residents from more than 65 countries. Wired with world-class internet speed and performance, Clarksville, Montgomery County's seat, is a gig city. We are the youngest county in Tennessee, with a median age of 30. Austin Peay is Tennessee's fastest growing public university. We have the best and brightest among Tennessee's rising stars. $1.65 billion invested since 2014. Downtown Clarksville is seeing its most active private investment in decades. With vision, leadership, cooperation, and strong community, we are privileged to walk among heroes every day. Montgomery County is soaring to new heights.
Perfect. All right, everybody. I just wanted to show that video as we get into the discussion about our local community, because we do have such a great community. So obviously we want to do everything we can to protect our environment. Let me pull my screen back up here real quick for you. Perfect. All right. So in keeping our community and making sure that our community is the way we love it for future generations, there's some things that really we need to take care of, and some things that obviously I want everybody to be aware of in the community. So the first thing that I want to talk about is solid waste. So solid waste is any waste that leaves your organization or your home that hasn't been recycled. So in Montgomery County and Stewart County, everything goes to bi-county solid waste. So this is our local landfill. It's out on Dover Road. We also have convenience centers located throughout the community too. Some organizations and some residents use local trash haulers if they don't use the convenience centers. So there's those as well. The majority of local trash haulers will take the items to bi-county, but there is a chance, depending on your hauler, that perhaps that solid waste is going to a different community. We're not sure with private haulers to which one it goes to. So solid waste, this is probably a bit of an older statistic, but the average person produces 4.5 pounds of trash per day. I would guess that maybe with 2020 and the pandemic, we might be a little higher than that this year. So when you think about that, that's just one person. If you have an entire organization, think about the number of or the poundage that comes out of your organization in a day. And also think about at home, what's leaving your home If you even have, 4 people within your home, then you're looking at, getting close to 20 pounds of trash per day. We obviously do not have infinite space at the landfill. Prior years, you've probably heard in the media some discussion about airspace at Pike County, and we will actually have Pike County on the next call, so I'll let them talk a little bit about that. But we do have space at the landfill right now. We have space to take it. But obviously, that is not infinite. So we really want to limit the amount of solid waste that goes into there and make sure that we're recycling, because there's always going to be some things that we produce that we need to be able to discard, unfortunately, until as a society we get to zero waste. So we want to make sure until we get there that we do have a place to deposit waste. And then Stewart and Montgomery counties put together have an average of about 250,000 people. That's growing, obviously, but just using that statistic based on today's population, that puts us at almost 1 million pounds of waste per day. So that doesn't take into anyone that is commuting into the county that may be working at your organization. So that's something to consider, especially when you consider how many people come into the industrial park area. So we probably are up over that 1 million pounds a day within our 2 communities. Something else to be aware of in our community is our air quality. So I will say Clarksville has great air quality. We actually, about 2 years ago, there was a study and we were in the top 7 of counties within Tennessee that had the best air. So that's fantastic. I mean, we're doing a great job. But I do want to put it on the radar that Nashville, just a little bit south of us, averages about 4 orange air quality days. And you'll see the chart on the right-hand side. This shows the air quality. So you'll see as it gets up into that orange range between 100 and 150, the air starts to become unhealthy. And that's when they issue warnings. Now, I know everybody's heard in the news them talking about the wildfires happening out in the West. When you get up into the 200 and 300, that's what the West is going through right now. Then it becomes unhealthy for everyone to breathe that air, not just anyone that might have a pre-existing condition. And I will say, I'm actually from out West, and trust me, when you get up into orange and red territory, you can tell a difference. Just walking out the door, suddenly the air actually has a tint to it, rather than having a nice, beautiful blue sky. You end up with having kind of a hazy look to it. When you really start getting into the 150, 200 range, it almost looks like fog. It looks like you're walking through a foggy morning, but instead of having the white fog that we saw this morning, it really ends up having that brown kind of color to it. So we definitely, it's unhealthy, it's unsightly. We never want to get to that point. But I will say, air quality depends a lot on how our energy is generated and also how many vehicles are on the road. So as our community continues to grow, air quality is definitely something we want to make sure we're keeping track of. And if you ever have any interest in tracking, if you ever want to know what's going on, the airnow.gov website gives you real-time information on how the air is in your area. Water quality. Water quality is another really important one, especially because our drinking water comes from the Cumberland River. So we very literally depend on clean water every day. Water is very easily contaminated, very, very easy to contaminate a water source. The picture on the top right corner is what's called an illicit discharge. It's someone pouring something directly into a storm drain system. I'll take a minute here. If you ever see anyone pouring something into the storm drain system, please contact the authorities. You can, if you're fearful that they're going to leave immediately, you can call 911. That is something that you can call 911 for. If you know who it is and you've seen it happen, skip calling 911 and instead just call the sheriff's department if you don't think it's an imminent threat that they're going to immediately leave. But that is definitely something, if you ever see anybody pouring anything into the storm drain system, let an authority know right away, because especially if it's oil, it only takes a very small amount to pollute an entire stream. So yes, it's going to pollute our drinking water, but also it's going to pollute all the animals' habitat, all the plants that depend on that. So, and not to mention how long it takes to clean everything up. So very important on that side for illicit discharge. Another problem we have in the community is litter. So anytime there's any type of litter that hits the ground in Montgomery County, Stewart County, anywhere really in our region, it eventually will end up in the water. So might take a while, might take, a year or two to get there, but everything will eventually end up in our waterways. Again, it ends up polluting it. We're seeing a really big problem right now with microplastics in waterways. That's something the Tennessee River had a study done, I believe it was 2017, that said that the number of microplastics in the Tennessee River is actually very similar to the amount of microplastics they're seeing in China waterways. So definitely that's something we want to be aware of. Make sure we keep as much plastic out of the waterway as we can, and everything else, but specifically plastic on that one for microplastics. The last picture is sedimentation and stormwater. These kind of go hand in hand. Anytime that we have development and we take off the existing vegetation, there is the opportunity for erosion. That erosion adds to sedimentation going into our waterways. Sedimentation, obviously, it causes problems for all the aquatic life in there, but it also makes the water murky. It makes it more challenging to be cleaned for gas and water. And stormwater, as we end up getting more and more development, stormwater movement also changes. So it's something that the planning department spends a lot of time on to make sure that as one development goes in, they don't cause a flooding issue in another section. As we build out more and more, though, it becomes more and more difficult on moving water away so that no one ends up having a flooding issue. The final one I'll talk about is resiliency. And again, for 2020, this is such a huge issue that a lot of organizations have seen as being more resilient. But on a community level, I wanted to hit a couple things on being resilient for a whole community. So our power grid, that is one of the things that we are most dependent on every single day. It brings power to us. We want to have resiliency in the power. And obviously, we want to move away from carbon to something more sustainable and renewable. The information on the right-hand side, you can see it has the different assets that TVA is generating. So all of the power within Tennessee comes from TVA, and then it's provided to the local power companies. So right now, the local power companies can produce 5% locally renewable. We are not, CEMC and CDE are nowhere close to that. So we actually have a lot of room to grow in the community for adding renewable resources. And we have a local solar subcommittee for the Sustainability Task Force that's coming together, and we're going to start doing some webinars for organizations and residents to talk more about solar and how you get started, answers questions, because a lot of people have questions about where solar panels can go. So look for that coming up in the next month, and I'll send all the details out to everybody, but that'll be a really great thing if you're interested in getting into solar. Another thing, utility service, gas and water obviously wants to remain resilient, make sure that they provide clean water for the community. So they are actually opening a new, well, they're not opening it yet. They're building a new water treatment plant, and that'll be in the northwest portion of the community, which offers more resilience to make sure that we don't have an issue where you can't get water or there's lower water pressure. I'll touch quickly on public health. We have a community health council that comes together. It's completely volunteer run, but that council looks at different public health concerns, obviously COVID right now, but things like mental health, opioid addiction, tobacco use, to try to be more resilient in the public health side and to try to combat those issues that we're seeing extensively in the community. And transportation side, long-range planning for transit, because as our population grows, transit is going to be really needed to take cars off the roadway, move people efficiently. So how do we expand that transit within our community, but also plan for that future growth? So these are some things that just the community as a whole is looking at and being aware of and trying to be as resilient as possible. And if you have any interest in kind of community-wide sustainability, please let me know, because we have a sustainability task force and we're always interested in new members for that. All right, so I have about 8 minutes left. I'm gonna go over this quickly. Homework. So I don't want to give you a lot of homework, but I do want to have you think about your environmental policy statement over the next week before we come back next Tuesday. So I'd like you to prepare a draft environmental policy statement. And if you're on this and you're watching it and you're in an organization that is already green certified, chat with your director or the manager or your green champion and ask them if you can see a copy of the environmental plan. It may be something that you're interested in updating now as you're going through the workshops. So I really want, for this policy statement, consider it your green mission statement. We want it to be your commitment to environmental stewardship. You want to talk about why you're taking this step. Why is it important that your organization look at sustainability? So why is it important to you? And then make it tailored to your organization. So don't leave it kind of vague of, oh, we just want to be good environmental stewards. Kind of tailor it to your specific organizations and the things you do. And then finally, be concise. So I'm going to show you an example. I'll let you read through that, but as you can see, it's only a paragraph long. It's pretty short. This is exactly what I'm looking for. Just something that talks about what you want to do and why you want to do it. It doesn't need to be long. That's the thing, is you want to make this document something that's easy to read through. And this is something too that could be placed on your organization's website or an employee handbook. So kind of keep that in mind too. I'll leave this up for a second. And this will be, I'll actually email this out. So don't worry if you haven't finished reading it. I'll email this out and I'll try to give you 2 or 3 other examples too, so that you have them. Once you complete that, go ahead and email it to me. And the reason I say email it to me is because I will actually, for all of the participants, I'll actually build your template for your environmental plan, and I'll drop this into it. So that way, when you get it, everything that you've done in the workshops is already dropped in. So when you get it from me, rather than being a blank template, it already has your information populated. That said, if you don't want to email it, that's totally fine. You're more than welcome to just keep it on your end and populate the plan when we get through the workshops. Just know, I do need, for your certification, I do need to have an environmental plan completed. And if you don't want to use the template that I provide, that's totally fine. If your organization already has an environmental plan, that's fine too. Just go ahead and send it to me, because I do need to have that in the files for completion of the certificate. But that is everything I have. So I appreciate everybody coming today. And like I said, we will get next week, we're going to have some presenters come in, and we're going to take a deep dive on waste and what kind of waste you have in your organization. So there's things other than solid waste. There is resource waste, there is energy waste. So we are going to talk all about that. But in the meantime, if you wouldn't mind, over the next week, putting a little time to think about your environmental policy statement. That's all I have. I will see you all next Tuesday, and I will get this out to everyone so you have a copy of the recording and all the materials that I shared today. Thanks so much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.